Coming up on this episode, I'll talk about dreams, what purpose they may serve to us, and just how the dream world may play a role in day-to-day life. So let's get into it. What's going on, beautiful people? This is the Perspective Chasers podcast, and I'm your host, John. On this episode, I want to talk about dreams. Now, I suppose I'm going to try to find some relevance between dreams and day-to-day life, but dreams are something that have always fascinated me because there's clearly something going on in your brain, and there's a reason for everything after all. So there's a reason for dreams, but we still don't quite know what it is. Now, we dream to varying degrees. Some of us say we don't dream at all. Some of us remember our dreams vividly. Some of us flip-flop. I flip-flop. There's varying degrees of what people experience when it comes to dreams. But for myself, I've started to have some fairly vivid dreams again lately, and they always fascinate me. I've always said that if I could record my dreams and watch them back, they would be some of the best-selling movies ever. Because the things that happen in them at times are absolutely crazy and incredibly entertaining. But there is a reason for those at the end of the day. Whether my brain's trying to make sense of day-to-day life and just whatever I see and experience and interpret in its own ways, or whether it's a completely unique dream that I've never experienced before or have no kind of idea where the inspiration comes from. Like sometimes I'll have a vivid dream and I'll be like, okay, cool, I've been talking to that person a lot, or I see something similar to that so I can understand how it would enter my dream. But then there's other times where my dreams go completely wacky. But there still has to be a reason for that, doesn't there? I'll give you an example. So I once dreamt I was a head of cauliflower getting broken up and put into a soup. And I was literally screaming that I was alive. And this person's breaking me up and putting me in their soup. And I woke up from that dream, and I guess from that I took that there is life in everything. Whether we can hear the expression or not, there is life in everything. And is that necessarily what that dream meant? No. But that's what I took from it regardless. Maybe that is the kind of secret to dreams. It's not a case of they have an individual intention. Maybe it is just your brain scrambling everything and organizing chaos, or just filtering things out, and the meaning that you take from it is all your own. Whether you want to think that there's something deep to it or whether there's not, that's down to you. Depending on if you're somebody that is aware of your dreams and you're somebody that thinks about that type of thing, it might be something that you are aware of and you do keep in your conscious mind. But then if you're somebody that just gets up and goes about life and tends not to think much of the kind of dreaming world or what happens when you sleep, then it's not something you're necessarily going to acknowledge. But it doesn't mean that there's nothing going on. For example, if you used to cut your toe, you may be aware of the cut when it first happens and the initial pain when it's healing or whatever else. But eventually that pain will go away, but that healing will continue. You're no longer aware of the processes and the repairs that go on. But it doesn't mean that in a week or two when you look back, that cut won't be gone. So your brain's doing the same thing when you're dreaming. You might be aware of the vivid parts of your dream that contain like vivid imagery, or however your brain tends to visualize or verbalize or process information. But maybe you're catching the snippets of that information and taking what you want from it, opposed to there being an inherent reason behind it. Maybe we are literally just observing the brain's processes of sorting things out, and in the midst of all of that chaos, it creates a kind of movie reel of intertwining memories and glimpses from things you may or may not have actually perceived in your waking life. Like, you might have caught a glimpse of a billboard or a movie trailer that's snuck into your dream because it had some vivid imagery, or it had something else that caught your attention into it. So it's managed to stick around in your subconscious somehow. And then when it comes to nighttime, your brain's processing that and filing it around everywhere. And when it's shot this image of a nice shiny car across your dream, maybe that was something you caught a glimpse of and it just stood out to you because it was a random colour, but you didn't take much notice of it in the moment, but it's still something that your brain has to process. And I think there's a lot that kind of slips through the net in that sense, where there's things that we kind of perceive but don't actually have to process. Like, think how many faces you see in a day, and how many of those you don't actually interact with and you'll never see again. So there's no reason for you to store them or process them, but you've still seen them. So you still have some recollection or some record of them in your mind. Whether you've processed that information or not, that's a different thing. Consciously. But subconsciously, you've still got to push that information through. It's still something that you've witnessed in your life. It's still a face that you've seen. It's still a moment in your life. So although it may not be something that we put our conscious mind to, there are all of these experiences that we're having for our life that our brains get all of this stimuli that eventually has to be processed at some point or another. Now, that's the kind of technical side of things, I guess, not from like the body standpoint, but then you've got the fact of, like, for me, dreams can get incredibly vivid where they feel that it is me. It is as real to you as I'm talking to you now. But so I have to get a bit of pre-context to explain this bit. See, years ago when I was a teenager, I managed to control my dreams. I had this one mad, vivid dream where I was getting chased. And eventually I stopped and turned around and I asked this thing why it was chasing me. And it responded, I don't know, it's your dream. And after that, I kind of always carry around that idea of, like, well, this is my dream. So I know what my innate day-to-day life is. So if I'm experiencing something where I'm doing a halo jump, or I'm a head of cabbage, or I'm a polar bear, or whatever it is, that's not my day-to-day life. Not that I recall anyway. So when I'm in those experiences, I kind of become aware I'm dreaming. So I have a certain amount of control of my dreams. Now, I have a very vivid mind and a very vivid imagination. So I'm always skeptical on how much control I necessarily have. Is it an imaginary control, or is it blah, blah, blah? But for argument's sake, let's say I can control my dreams to an extent. I can at least control my actions in my dreams. So then when I am in a chaotic dream or anything else, I'm aware of it. And when I try to recall as much of the dream when I wake up as possible, if they're entertaining ones anyway. And the more I try to recall it, sometimes the better it and clearer it gets, other times the hazier it gets. It really depends. But it doesn't stop them being entertaining. And again, there is a reason for it. But even if it's just for the entertainment factor, like, dreams are fascinating. To think of the things that your mind can come up with on its own. Like, you sit down and you try and write a story just completely original off the top of your head. It's not going to happen. But while you're sleeping, your brain is firing God knows how many neurons and doing all of these repairs around your body. And in the midst of all of that, it creates this vivid dream experience that is obviously immersive because you're in a dream state, but sometimes you can live out a whole life within a dream. Wake up and you've got to go back to your 9 to 5 or whatever it is, back to day-to-day life. But that dream still happened to you. You just can't recall it. Now, how much, that would be a whole rabbit hole in itself. Forget VR and AR and all of that. Imagine you could have voluntary access to dream state, where you could literally just click your fingers and you're dreaming and having the most vivid dreams that you could have. Not as an overlay of real life, but that you are experiencing as your energy, like you do when you're in a dream. Because, like I said, with that dream of when I was a head of cabbage, I was that head of cabbage. In that moment, it wasn't, oh, I'm John dreaming, I'm a head of cabbage being broken up. It was, even if I'm conscious that I'm dreaming, I'm experiencing it from this cabbage's perspective. Which again becomes fascinating when you look at ideas around death and near-death experiences and the fact that everything is energy experiencing itself. So then when you're dreaming, maybe these dreams are fragments of other experiences that you've had, or maybe they're fragments that other people are having or other things are having right now, and you're just tuning into them while you're asleep. There's so many possibilities behind dreams because it's such unknown territory as far as I'm aware anyway. There's still so much that we don't know about the dream state. And I don't know, there more than likely is people out there exploring it and everything else, but I don't know. If there is, let me know what you find, because I am fascinated and I do have vivid dreams of my own that I could share, I guess. But the fact is, they happen. You can't force yourself not to dream. If you're somebody that experiences dreams, whether they be good or bad, even if it's nightmares, if you have night terrors, imagine being able to switch them on or off. That ability would be amazing for somebody that's going through trauma and this, that, and everything else. Because again, it's something that you can't stop yourself experiencing. Your body wants to dream, wants to go through that process. So whatever it is, it's something that the body needs. It's something that we need, but we don't understand it. That's insane. That's like getting hungry and not knowing why. Well, we know why we get hungry because we've expelled energy or this, that, or the other. There's cause and effect. So when it comes to dreams, if life is the cause, then the effect is dreams, I guess. But then being able to understand that better, I think, would serve us all well. But yeah, anyway. Before I start going on loads of tangents, I think I'll leave dreams there and never know, maybe pick up on it again. Hopefully there'll be somebody down the road that is willing to talk crazy about dreams. But the seed for this episode is going to be, take some time to think about dreams. Think about what your mind does when you're not about, what your mind wants to do on its own. Understand that I don't think it's as much as our body and ourselves are one thing. I think they are two separate things in a very big sense, that our energy, our soul, our essence is something that is inhabiting our body. So if the body is this vehicle that you transverse this plane of existence with, take some time to appreciate it. Take some time to understand the two separate entities are two separate entities working together. And what is going to take to help those two entities work better together life for both parts. But anyway, I'll leave it there, and all the best, and I'll catch you on the next one.